night stories, where nightmares become to life and shadows appear in the corners.
Rain slicked the streets of downtown Seattle, turning the neon signs into blurred halos that pulsed like distant warnings. Alex scrolled through Reddit on his phone, slumped in the back of a rideshare, the driver's radio murmuring static-laced talk shows. He'd been lurking on our urban challenges for weeks, ever since the divorce papers landed in his mailbox like a quiet eviction from his own life. The posts were mostly harmless, flash mobs, scavenger hunts, but one thread caught his eye. 24-hour game. Survive the night, change your life. 6 spots. Real-world tasks. Apply in comments. He typed a quick response. In 35M, ready for anything. His thumb hovered, then pressed send. The car pulled up to his empty apartment building, and he stepped out into the drizzle, feeling a faint stir of something he hadn't felt in years. Anticipation, laced with unease. Across town, Sarah hunched over her laptop in a cramped dorm room, the hum of fluorescent lights buzzing overhead like trapped insects. Her roommate was out, leaving her alone with the echo of her parents' latest argument still ringing in her ears from the phone call earlier. She needed an escape, something to prove she wasn't just drifting through college. The Reddit post promised intensity, a break from the numbness. Count me in, 21F, up for the challenge. She hit post and leaned back, staring at the ceiling cracks that seemed to widen each night. Mike sat in his dim living room, the TV flickering mute war documentaries he no longer watched. Retirement had come too soon after the last tour, leaving him with ghosts that whispered in the silence. The Reddit thread popped up in his feed. Tasks, survival, a group effort. It reminded him of patrols, but without the rifles. Signing up, 52M, experienced. He sent it, then poured another coffee, black and bitter, ignoring the tremor in his hand. Lena sketched absently in her notebook at a late-night cafe, the steam from her tea curling like smoke signals. Her art sales had dried up, mirroring the hollow ache she'd carried since her brother's accident years ago. Subtle reminders in the way she avoided drawing faces. The game post intrigued her. Cruel tasks, it hinted, but original, immersive. I'm game. 28F creative type. She posted and closed her eyes, imagining lines that twisted into shadows. Jamal leaned against the kitchen counter in his high-rise apartment, phone in hand. The city lights sprawling below like a circuit board. He'd joined the subreddit on a bet from coworkers, the ones who called him too analytical, too safe. But lately, debugging code felt like chasing echoes of his estranged father's expectations. Let's do this. 30M, skeptic but intrigued. He sent the comment, half expecting it to be a scam. Emily folded laundry in her tiny living room, the kids finally asleep in the next room. Bills piled on the table like accusations, ever since her ex vanished with the support checks. She rarely browsed Reddit, but a targeted ad led her there. A game with potential rewards implied in the fine print of survival. Interested, 34F, determined. She posted quickly before doubt could creep in, then glanced at the sleeping forms, wondering if this was recklessness or necessity. By midnight, the thread locked. A private message arrived to each. Accepted. Meet at the old Fremont warehouse, 10 p.m. tomorrow. Come alone. No phones after entry. The game begins at midnight. Rules. Complete all tasks within 24 hours. Fail one and you're out, permanently. Share nothing outside the group. The next evening, the warehouse loomed on the edge of the industrial district, its brick facade cracked and weeping rust from decades of neglect. Graffiti twisted across the walls like veins, and the air hung heavy with the scent of damp concrete and forgotten machinery. Streetlights flickered erratically, casting long shadows that seemed to shift when no one was looking. Alex arrived first, hands in his pockets scanning the empty lot. The door, a rusted metal slab, creaked open on its own as he approached, revealing a cavernous interior lit by sporadic bulbs dangling from exposed wires. He stepped inside, the echo of his footsteps swallowed by the vastness. Sarah pulled up on her bike, chaining it to a fence post that groaned under the weight. She hesitated at the threshold, the wind whispering through broken windows like distant voices. Inside, she nodded to Alex, her backpack slung over one shoulder, containing water and a flashlight. Practical, but her fingers trembled as she gripped the strap. Mike drove up in his old truck, parking with precision. He entered without a word, his eyes sweeping the space like a perimeter check, noting the scattered debris, old crates, tangled chains, a puddle reflecting the dim light like an unblinking eye. Lena slipped in quietly, her sketchbook under her arm, drawn to the way the shadows pooled in corners, almost inviting her to capture them. She introduced herself softly, her voice echoing oddly, as if the building absorbed it. Jamal arrived on foot, having taken the bus to avoid tracking. He eyed the group warily, calculating odds. This felt too real, too unscripted. Emily was last, her car sputtering to a stop. She locked it twice, then entered, her face set in quiet resolve, though her mind raced with thoughts of the babysitter's number. They gathered in the center, under a flickering bulb that buzzed like an insect swarm. No host appeared, but an envelope lay on a crate, sealed with wax. Mike picked it up, breaking the seal. Inside, a single sheet. Welcome to the 24-hour game. You are now bound. First task, share your deepest regret with the group. Speak it aloud, or the door locks forever. The group exchanged glances, the air thickening. Alex cleared his throat. I let my marriage crumble without fighting, watched her walk away. Sarah shifted. I ignored my sister's cries for help. She's gone now. Mike's voice was steady but low. Left a man behind on a mission. Orders, but it haunts. Lena whispered. Drove that night. My brother paid the price. Jamal hesitated. Cut off my family. Too proud to admit I needed them. Emily's eyes glistened. Trusted the wrong man. My kids suffer for it. As the last word faded, the warehouse door slammed shut with a finality that rattled the chains. A low hum started from the walls, like the building breathing. Then another envelope appeared on the crate. No one had placed it there. Mike opened it. Task 2. One of you must retrieve the key from the basement, alone, the rest wait. The group stared at the shadowed stairs leading down, where the darkness seemed to pulse, waiting. Jamal volunteered, his skepticism cracking. He descended, flashlight beam cutting through the murk. Minutes stretched. Then a faint scrape echoed up, like nails on stone. He didn't return. The hum grew louder, and the bulb above flickered once, twice, then died, plunging them into black. From the basement, a whisper rose, indistinct but human. Help. It's here. The warehouse pulsed with silence, broken only by the faint, rhythmic hum from the walls, like a heartbeat trapped in concrete. The darkness was absolute now, the bulb's death leaving the group in a void where their own breathing sounded too loud. Emily clutched her arms, her fingers digging into her sleeves. The memory of her kids' sleeping faces anchoring her against the rising dread. Alex shifted his weight, his boots scuffing the gritty floor, eyes straining toward the basement stairs where Jamal had vanished. The whisper, help, it's here, lingered like damp rot in the air. Sarah's flashlight clicked on, its beam slicing through the gloom, revealing the group's faces. Mike, jaw tight, scanning the shadows like a soldier. Lena, clutching her sketchbook, her eyes darting to corners as if they might spill secrets. Alex, his hands flexing, restless with guilt. And Emily, her lips pressed thin, fighting the urge to run. The beam settled on the stairs, a narrow descent into a blackness that seemed to swallow the light. We can't just stand here, Mike said, voice low but steady. He's been gone too long. He knew the rules, Alex muttered, though his eyes betrayed his unease. One goes, we wait. Lena's voice was soft, almost lost in the hum. That whisper, it wasn't him, not really. Emily turned sharply. What's that supposed to mean? Lena hesitated, her fingers tracing the edge of her sketchbook. It sounded wrong, like it was mimicking him. Sarah swung the flashlight toward the crate. Another envelope sat there, its edges curling as if damp. No one had seen it appear. Mike grabbed it, tearing it open with a precision that spoke of years under pressure. The note inside was scrawled in jagged ink. Task 2 continues. Retrieve the key from the basement. One must go, the rest stay. Time limit, 10 minutes. Fail, and the door remains locked. 10 minutes from when? Alex snapped, glancing at his watch, useless without a starting point. The hum grew louder, vibrating in their chests, and the air felt heavier, pressing against their skin. "I'll go," Mike said, stepping toward the stairs. His tone brooked no argument, but Sarah grabbed his arm. "You heard that whisper? We don't know what's down there. We don't know what's up here either," he countered, shaking her off. He took the flashlight from her, his grip steady despite the faint tremor in his fingers. "Stay put. I'll be back." He descended, each step echoing like a hammer on steel. The group waited, the seconds stretching into a suffocating eternity. Emily counted her breaths, a habit from sleepless nights worrying about bills. Lena sketched absently in the dark, her pencil scratching against paper, the sound unnervingly loud. Alex paced, muttering under his breath about bad decisions. Sarah stood frozen, staring at the stairs, her mind replaying the whisper's cadence. Too slow, too deliberate. 5 minutes passed. Or was it longer? The hum shifted, now a low growl that seemed to come from below. Then, a sound. Metal scraping metal, sharp and deliberate, rising from the basement like a blade being honed. Emily flinched, her hand brushing the crate where another envelope had appeared. She gasped, stepping back. "Don't touch it," Sarah whispered, her voice tight. "Not yet." Lena stopped sketching, her eyes wide. "It's like the building knows we're here, like it's playing." Alex snorted, but it was hollow. "Buildings don't play games." "Then explain that," Lena said, pointing to the envelope. Its wax seal glistened as if freshly pressed. Before anyone could respond, a thud echoed from the basement, heavy, final, like something large hitting the floor. Sarah's breath hitched. "Mike?" No answer. The growl deepened, vibrating the floorboards. Emily's resolve cracked. She grabbed the new envelope, tearing it open. The note read, "Task 3. One must confess a betrayal. Speak it now, or the basement claims another." "Claims?" Alex's voice rose, sharp with panic. "What the hell does that mean?" Sarah's face paled. "It means Mike's not coming back unless we do this." "Or Jamal," Lena added, her voice barely audible. She clutched her sketchbook tighter, as if it could shield her from the truth. Emily's hand shook, the note crumpling in her grip. I lied to my kids about their father, told them he was coming back even when I knew he'd abandoned us." Her voice broke, the confession spilling like blood. "I betrayed their trust." The growl softened, but only slightly, as if the warehouse was listening, weighing her words. The group stared at each other, the air thick with unspoken secrets. Alex opened his mouth, then closed it, his eyes darting to the stairs. Sarah's lips trembled, but she stayed silent, her past a locked door she wasn't ready to open. Lena spoke, her voice a whisper. "I betrayed my brother. Told him I'd drive him home, but I was distracted. The crash was my fault." Her eyes glistened, but she didn't look away. The growl faded further, but the hum returned, sharper now, like a blade hovering over skin. Another envelope appeared on the crate, its seal cracked, as if impatient. Sarah reached for it, her hand shaking. The note inside was shorter. "Task 4. One must enter the basement and bring back what was left behind. Choose now." Alex backed away. "No way, I'm not going down there." Emily's voice was steel. "We don't have a choice. We fail, we're stuck here, or worse." Sarah gripped the flashlight, her knuckles white. "I'll go. I'm the only one who hasn't confessed yet. Maybe that's why it's calling me." Lena grabbed her wrist. "You heard the sounds. You can't." Sarah pulled free, her eyes fierce despite the fear. "I have to." She took the flashlight and stepped toward the stairs, each one creaking under her weight. The darkness below seemed to pulse, alive with intent. As she descended, the hum grew louder and a new sound joined it. A faint rhythmic tapping, like fingers drumming on bone. The group waited, the warehouse's walls seeming to lean closer, the air thick with the scent of rust and something sweeter, like decay. Minutes passed. Then a scream, Sarah's raw and terrified, cut through the silence, followed by a wet, tearing sound. The flashlight beam flickered out below, and the tapping grew louder, closer, climbing the stairs. The warehouse held its breath, the air thick with the echo of Sarah's scream. The rhythmic tapping from the basement stairs grew louder, deliberate, like a predator circling closer. Emily pressed her back against the crate, her pulse hammering. The memory of her kids' bedtime stories now a cruel contrast to the nightmare unfolding. Alex stood frozen, his hands clenched into fists, his earlier bravado crumbling under the weight of the unseen. Lena clutched her sketchbook, her pencil digging into the paper, drawing jagged lines that mirrored the panic in her chest. The tapping stopped abruptly, replaced by a low, guttural rasp, like air escaping a punctured lung. The darkness at the top of the stairs seemed to thicken, as if it had weight, pressing against the group. The bulb above flickered back to life, casting a sickly yellow glow that revealed nothing but the same rusted walls, scattered debris, and the ever-present crate. Another envelope sat there, its edges frayed, the wax seal already broken as if it had been waiting for them to notice. "Nobody touch it," Alex hissed, his voice cracking. "Not until we know what happened to Sarah." Lena's eyes flicked to the stairs. "She's gone, like Jamal, like Mike." Her voice was hollow, but her grip on the sketchbook tightened, her knuckles whitening. "We're running out of people." Emily's jaw set, her fear hardening into something sharper. "We don't know they're gone. We have to check." She took a step toward the stairs, but Alex grabbed her arm. "Are you crazy?" he snapped. "You heard that scream. Whatever's down there isn't handing out keys." Emily yanked free, her eyes blazing. "My kids need me to get out of this. I'm not waiting for another note to tell us we're screwed." She moved toward the crate instead, snatching the envelope. The paper felt damp, clinging to her fingers like skin. She read aloud, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "Task 4 continues. Retrieve what was left behind. One must go. Time limit, 5 minutes. Fail, and the warehouse decides." "Decides?" Alex's laugh was brittle. "What does that even mean?" Lena pointed to the floor, where the puddle from earlier had spread, its surface rippling despite the still air. "It means this place isn't just a building. It's alive." Emily ignored her, stuffing the note into her pocket. "I'm going. Someone has to." She grabbed a rusty pipe from the debris, its weight cold and grounding in her hand. She moved to the stairs, her steps deliberate, each one echoing like a countdown. The group watched silent as she descended, the darkness swallowing her form until only the faint scuff of her shoes remained. The warehouse seemed to exhale, the hum returning, now laced with a faint whine like a distant animal in pain. Alex paced, his boots grinding dust into the floor. "This is insane. We signed up for a game, not whatever this is." Lena didn't look up from her sketchbook, her pencil moving frantically now, outlining something formless, shadowed. "You think this is still a game?" she murmured. "It's testing us, punishing us." "For what?" Alex snapped, but his eyes darted to the stairs, betraying his fear. "For what we said," Lena replied, her voice barely audible. "Our regrets, our betrayals, it's using them." Before Alex could respond, a sharp clang echoed from the basement, followed by Emily's voice, low, strained, but alive. "I found it! The key!" Her words were cut off by a sudden wet gurgle, then silence. The hum spiked, vibrating the walls, and the puddle on the floor began to bubble, its surface gleaming with an unnatural sheen. Lena dropped her pencil, her sketchbook falling open to reveal a drawing of the warehouse interior, but warped, walls curving inward, shadows with eyes. "It's not just a key," she whispered. "It's bait." Alex lunged for the stairs, shouting, "Emily!" but stopped short as the tapping resumed, faster now, climbing with purpose. He stumbled back, nearly tripping over the crate. Another envelope had appeared, its seal dripping red wax that smelled faintly of iron. Lena grabbed it, her hands shaking as she read, "Task 5. One must offer a sacrifice. Leave it at the basement door. Choose now, or the warehouse takes its own." "Sacrifice?" Alex's voice was a snarl. "What the hell are we supposed to offer?" Lena's eyes flicked to her sketchbook, then to the stairs. "Something personal. Something that hurts to lose." She hesitated, then tore a page from her book, the drawing of the warehouse, its shadows alive with intent. She folded it tightly, her fingers lingering as if parting with a piece of herself, and placed it at the top of the stairs. The tapping stopped. The hum softened, but only for a moment. Then a new sound. A slow, deliberate drag, like something heavy being pulled up the steps. The group backed away, the air growing colder. The puddle now spreading toward their feet, its edges curling like fingers. Emily's form emerged from the darkness, staggering up the final steps. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with something beyond fear, recognition, as if she'd seen the heart of the warehouse. In her hand, she clutched a rusted key, its teeth jagged and stained with something dark. Her shirt was torn, a long scratch across her arm, weeping blood. "It let me go," she gasped, collapsing to her knees. "But it wanted more. It showed me—" She trailed off, her gaze distant, fixed on the puddle now lapping at her shoes. "What did you see?" Lena asked, her voice trembling. Emily shook her head, clutching the key tighter. "It's not just a place, it's hungry." Before anyone could press her, the warehouse groaned, a deep, resonant sound that shook the floor. The bulb flickered wildly, casting their shadows in distorted shapes across the walls. Another envelope appeared on the crate, but this time it was different. Larger, heavier. Its seal cracked and oozing a thick black liquid. Alex stepped back, his voice barely a whisper. "I'm not opening that." Lena reached for it, her hand steady despite the fear in her eyes. She tore it open, revealing a single line. "Task 6. One must stay behind. Choose now, or the warehouse chooses for you." From the basement, a new sound rose. A low, guttural laugh. Human but not, echoing up the stairs like a promise of something worse to come. The warehouse seemed to contract, its walls groaning as if the building itself were inhaling the group's fear. The guttural laugh from the basement lingered, curling through the air like smoke, its echo mocking the silence that followed. The bulb above sputtered, casting jagged shadows that danced across the rusted walls, making the graffiti seem to writhe. Emily clutched the stained key, her scratched arm trembling, her eyes still haunted by whatever she'd seen below. Alex stood rigid, his fists clenched, the bravado he'd clung to now a thin veneer over raw panic. Lena held the oozing envelope, its black liquid dripping onto the floor, mingling with the spreading puddle that shimmered unnaturally, like oil laced with starlight. The note's words hung heavy. "Task 6. One must stay behind. Choose now, or the warehouse chooses for you." The air grew colder, the hum sharpening into a whine that burrowed into their skulls. The puddle rippled, its edges creeping closer as if testing their resolve. "Stay behind?" Alex's voice cracked, his eyes darting to the stairs. "What does that even mean? Die? Get trapped?" Emily's gaze was fixed on the key, her voice low. "It means sacrifice, real sacrifice. Not just a drawing or a confession." She glanced at Lena's torn sketchbook page, still lying at the top of the stairs, now sodden and curling in the puddle's grasp. Lena's hands shook as she set the envelope down. "It's punishing us for what we've done, for what we are." Her eyes flicked to her sketchbook, the remaining pages filled with half-formed shadows, as if she'd been trying to capture the warehouse's soul. "I can feel it watching." "Stop talking like that," Alex snapped, pacing again, his boots splashing through the puddle. He froze, staring at his wet shoes, the liquid clinging to them like tar. "This is just a game, a sick, twisted game." Emily's laugh was bitter, almost a sob. "You still think this is a game after Jamal, Mike, Sarah?" She held up the key, its jagged edges catching the flickering light. "This came at a cost. I saw things down there, faces in the dark. Not human, but they knew me." Lena stepped closer, her voice soft but urgent. "What did they show you?" Emily's eyes welled, but she didn't answer. Instead, she turned to the crate where another envelope had appeared, its seal glistening like wet bone. She grabbed it, tearing it open with a ferocity that startled the others. The note inside was scrawled in the same jagged script. Task 6 clarification. One must remain in the warehouse. The rest may leave with the key. Choose within 5 minutes, or the choice is made. The hum spiked, a shrill edge cutting through the air, and the puddle surged, lapping at their ankles. Alex swore, stumbling back, his face pale. We're not doing this. We're not picking someone to die. It's not about dying, Lena whispered, her eyes on the stairs. It's about what the warehouse wants. It's keeping score. Emily gripped the pipe she'd carried from the basement, its weight a faint comfort. Then we choose, or it does. Her voice was steady, but her hands betrayed her, trembling as she glanced at the others. I have kids. I can't stay. Alex's eyes narrowed. And I've got nothing left to lose, but I'm not volunteering either. Don't look at me like that. Lena's gaze dropped to her sketchbook, her fingers tracing its worn cover. I've already lost my brother. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's always been me. Her voice was quiet, but it carried a weight that silenced the room. The warehouse groaned again, the sound deeper now, like a beast stirring. The bulb flickered, plunging them into brief darkness before flaring back, brighter, harsher, revealing new marks on the walls, scratches, fresh and deep, forming words, choose now. Emily took a step toward Lena, her voice low. You don't have to do this, we can fight it. Lena shook her head, a sad smile flickering. I've been running from guilt my whole life. Maybe this is where it catches up. She stepped toward the stairs, her sketchbook clutched to her chest like a shield. I'll stay. Use the key. Get out. No. Emily grabbed her arm, but Lena pulled free, her eyes resolute. You have kids, Lena said. Alex, you're still fighting for something, even if you don't know it. I'm done running. She turned to the stairs, her footsteps slow but steady, descending into the dark. The tapping resumed, faint at first, then louder, matching her pace. Alex lunged for the crate as if to find another note, another way out, but it was empty. The puddle surged again, forcing him back. Emily clutched the key, her knuckles white, tears streaking her face. Lena, come back. The tapping stopped. The hum softened, but the air grew heavier, thick with the scent of rust and something sweeter, like rotting fruit. Then from the basement, Lena's voice, calm, too calm, echoed up. It's okay. It's waiting for me. A low guttural sound followed. Not a laugh this time, but a sigh, satisfied and final. The warehouse shuddered, the walls creaking as if settling into place. The bulb dimmed, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch toward the stairs. Emily and Alex stood frozen, the key cold in her hand. The door across the warehouse, the rusted metal slab they'd entered through, creaked open an inch, revealing a sliver of the rainy night outside. Freedom, but at a cost. Another envelope appeared on the crate, its seal unbroken, the wax gleaming like fresh blood. Emily's breath hitched as she reached for it, her fingers brushing the paper, which felt warm, alive. She tore it open, reading aloud. Task 7, take the key and leave. But one must carry the mark, choose who bears it. From the basement a new sound rose, a slow, wet slither climbing the stairs accompanied by a faint whisper. Not Lena's, but something older, hungrier. Choose, or I will. The warehouse seemed to pulse, its walls creaking as if the structure were flexing muscles beneath its rusted skin. The wet slither from the basement stairs grew louder, deliberate, like something dragging itself upward, its weight scraping against the concrete. The whisper, choose, or I will, hung in the air, sharp and cold, cutting through the heavy hum that vibrated in Emily's and Alex's bones. Emily gripped the jagged key, its stained teeth biting into her palm, her other hand clutching the new envelope, its warm paper pulsing faintly under her fingers. Alex stood rigid, his eyes darting between the open door, its sliver of rainy night beckoning, and the shadowed stairs where Lena had vanished. The puddle at their feet shimmered, its edges curling like tendrils, reflecting the flickering bulb above in unnatural swirls. The note's words burned in Emily's mind. Task 7, take the key and leave, but one must carry the mark, choose who bears it. Her voice trembled as she read it again, the paper crinkling. What's the mark? What does it want now? Emily's eyes narrowed, her fear hardening into resolve. We don't have a choice, Alex. Lena's gone because we didn't act fast enough. We can't just run. Her voice cracked, thinking of her kids, their small hands reaching for her in the mornings. She couldn't fail them. Not like she'd failed their trust with lies about their father. The slithering grew closer, now accompanied by a faint rhythmic thump like a heartbeat out of sync. The bulb flickered wildly, casting their shadows in twisted shapes across the walls, where the scratched words, "Choose now," seemed to pulse, as if carved anew. The air thickened with the scent of rust and decay, sweet and cloying, sticking to their throats. Emily's fingers tightened around the key. "I'll take it, the mark. Whatever it is, I'll carry it. You get out, Alex. Someone has to." He shook his head, his face pale, eyes wide. "No way. You've got kids. I've got nothing. If anyone's taking some cursed mark, it's me." His voice wavered, betraying the lie. He was terrified, but his guilt, the weight of his failed marriage, pushed him forward. He reached for the envelope, but Emily pulled it back. "You don't know what it means," she said, her voice low. "You heard Lena. This place knows us. It's personal." She glanced at the stairs where the slithering paused, replaced by a low, guttural hum, like a beast savoring its prey. "I've already lost enough. I can carry more." Before Alex could argue, the warehouse shuddered, the floor tilting slightly, as if urging them to act. The puddle surged, lapping at their knees, its surface now flecked with dark streaks that moved against the current. Emily tore open the envelope again, searching for more instructions, but found only a single word scrawled in black ink. "Touch." "Touch what?" Alex whispered, his voice barely audible over the hum. The slithering resumed, faster now, and a shape emerged at the top of the stairs. Formless, shadowed, but undeniably present. It wasn't Lena, nor Jamal, nor Mike, but something else, its edges blurring into the darkness, its presence heavy with intent. The bulb flared, revealing a glimpse of slick, glistening flesh, studded with what looked like teeth before plunging them into darkness again. Emily's breath caught, but she stepped forward, her pipe raised like a weapon. "Stay back!" she shouted, her voice echoing oddly, as if the warehouse absorbed it. The shape paused, its hum softening, almost amused. The puddle rippled violently, splashing against her legs, and she felt a sharp sting, like a needle piercing her ankle. Alex grabbed her arm, pulling her back. "Don't! It's trying to trick us!" But Emily's eyes widened, her gaze dropping to her ankle, where a dark mark bloomed under her skin, a jagged spiral pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. "It's done," she whispered, her voice trembling with realization. "I didn't choose. It chose me." The shape retreated, its slithering fading down the stairs, but the hum grew louder, vibrating the walls until dust rained from the ceiling. The door across the warehouse swung wider, the rainy night now fully visible, the neon lights of Seattle flickering in the distance. The key in Emily's hand felt heavier, warmer, as if it approved of her mark. Alex stared at her ankle, his face ashen. "What does it feel like?" Emily's lips pressed thin, her eyes distant, like it's alive, like it's waiting. She took a step toward the door, her movement sluggish, as if the mark were anchoring her to the warehouse. "We have to go, now." They moved together, the puddle resisting their steps, its surface now thick with those dark streaks, swirling like eyes watching them. As they reached the door, the bulb flared one last time, illuminating the crate. Another envelope sat there, its seal unbroken, glistening with that same black liquid. Alex hesitated, but Emily grabbed his arm, pulling him toward the exit. "Don't," she said, her voice firm despite the fear in her eyes. "We leave, that's the task." They stepped into the rain, the door slamming shut behind them with a clang that echoed like a gunshot. The warehouse loomed silent now, its hum gone, but the mark on Emily's ankle pulsed, warm and insistent, a reminder of what she carried. The city felt distant, unreal, as if they'd crossed a threshold into a world that no longer fit them. Alex glanced back, his face drawn. "What about the others, Lena, Mike, Jamal, Sarah?" Emily didn't answer, her eyes fixed on the key in her hand, its stains darker now, almost liquid. The rain washed over them, but it didn't touch the mark, which seemed to glow faintly under her skin. From the warehouse, a faint sound broke the silence, a low, rhythmic chant not human rising from the depths. And then, a single word, clear and cold, carried on the wind. "Run!" The rain lashed Seattle's streets, turning the pavement into a mirror of fractured neon. Emily and Alex stumbled away from the warehouse, the word run still ringing in their ears, sharp and cold like a blade pressed to their spines. The key in Emily's hand pulsed with unnatural warmth, its jagged edges biting into her palm, while the mark on her ankle throbbed, each pulse syncing with her racing heart. Alex kept pace beside her, his breath ragged, his eyes darting to the shadowed alleys as if expecting the warehouse to follow them. The city felt wrong. Too quiet, the usual hum of traffic muted, the street lights flickering like the warehouse's bulb. Emily's shoes slapped through puddles, each step sending a jolt through the mark as if it were alive, tethered to the building they'd left behind. "We need to keep moving," she said, her voice low, urgent. Her thoughts flickered to her kids, their small faces anchoring her, but the mark's pulse whispered doubts. Would she ever reach them? Alex nodded, his jaw tight. Where? The note said leave, but he trailed off, glancing at the key, its stains glinting in the rain. That thing's not done with us. They turned onto a deserted street, the warehouse still looming in the distance, its silhouette unnervingly sharp against the stormy sky. The chant from inside, a low, guttural rhythm, followed them, faint but persistent like a heartbeat carried on the wind. Emily's ankle burned, the spiral mark now visibly spreading, its edges curling like roots under her skin. She stopped, leaning against a lamppost, its light buzzing erratically. "It's getting worse," she said, pulling up her pant leg. The mark pulsed darker, its pattern shifting slightly as if writing itself anew. "It's not just a mark. It's part of me now." Alex's face paled, his eyes fixed on the spiral. "We need to get rid of that key. It's connected to this whole thing." He reached for it, but Emily yanked her hand back, her grip tightening. "No," she said, her voice sharp. "It's our way out. The note said take it and leave. We don't know what happens if we ditch it." Her eyes flicked to the warehouse, its windows like dark eyes watching them. "Besides, you heard it. It told us to run." Alex opened his mouth to argue, but a sound cut him off. A wet, scraping slither, faint but unmistakable, coming from the alley behind them. They froze, the rain masking the sound's source, but the chant grew louder, its rhythm uneven, almost mocking. Emily's mark flared, a sharp sting that made her gasp. She grabbed Alex's arm, pulling him forward. "Move!" They ran, the city blurring around them, the slithering keeping pace always just out of sight. They ducked into a narrow street, lined with shuttered storefronts, their reflections distorted in the dark glass. Emily's lungs burned, but the mark urged her on, its pulse a command she couldn't ignore. Alex stumbled, catching himself against a dumpster, his face slick with rain and fear. "We can't keep running blind," he panted. "We need a plan, a destination." Emily's mind raced, the mark's heat spreading up her leg, clouding her thoughts. "My place, it's not far. We can figure it out there." She didn't mention the kids, didn't want to jinx the fragile hope of seeing them again. They pushed on, the slithering fading but never gone, the chant weaving through the rain like a thread pulling them back. Emily's apartment building came into view, a squat brick structure, its windows dim except for one, her neighbors probably checking on her kids. The thought steadied her, but the mark pulsed harder, as if resisting her approach to safety. They climbed the stairs, the hallway smelling of mildew and burnt toast, a stark contrast to the warehouse's decay. Emily fumbled with her keys, the jagged game key still in her hand, its warmth unsettling against her own. The door swung open, revealing the familiar clutter of her life. Kids' toys scattered, bills on the table, but it felt alien, like stepping into a memory that wasn't hers anymore. Alex locked the door behind them, his hands shaking. "Now what? We're out, but that thing's still with us." He pointed to her ankle, where the mark had spread further, now curling past her calf, its lines sharper, almost legible, like a language they couldn't read. Emily set the key on the table, its stains smearing the wood like blood. "We need to understand it. The tasks, the mark, they're not random." She grabbed a notebook, scribbling what she remembered. Regrets, betrayals, sacrifices. Her hand trembled, the mark's pulse guiding her pen, forming shapes that echoed Lena's sketches. The chant returned, softer now, seeping through the walls. Alex spun toward the window, yanking the curtain aside. The street below was empty, but the rain seemed to fall in patterns, pooling into spirals that mirrored Emily's mark. "It's still out there," he whispered. "It's not done." A knock at the door made them jump. Emily's heart leapt. Her kids, the babysitter. But the mark burned, warning her. She approached slowly, peering through the peephole. Nothing. Just the dim hallway. Another knock, heavier, deliberate. The mark flared, and the key on the table vibrated, a low hum matching the chant outside. "Don't open it," Alex said, his voice barely audible. Emily's hand hovered over the knob, the mark urging her forward, a compulsion she couldn't fight. She turned it, the door creaking open to reveal an envelope on the mat, its seal dripping black. No one was there, but the hallway air felt thick, charged, like the warehouse's breath had followed them. She grabbed the envelope, slamming the door shut. Her fingers tore it open, revealing a single line. Task 8, return the key to its source. One must go back, alone. From the street below, the slithering returned, louder, closer, and the chant shifted into a single clear word, spoken in a voice that wasn't human. Now. The rain battered Emily's apartment windows, each drop a hammer against the fragile barrier of her reality. The envelope lay open on the table, its single line. Task 8, return the key to its source. One must go back, alone, staring up at her like an accusation. The jagged key beside it hummed faintly, its stains now a deep crimson, pooling on the wood as if alive. The mark on Emily's leg burned, its spiral pattern now creeping past her knee, each pulse a command that tugged at her will. Alex stood by the window, his silhouette rigid against the flickering neon outside, his eyes scanning the street where the slithering sound had grown louder, weaving through the chant that never stopped. Its word, now, echoing in their skulls. Emily's hands shook as she clutched the notebook, her scribbled list of tasks, regrets, betrayals, sacrifices, blurring under her gaze. The mark's heat clouded her thoughts, but her kids' faces anchored her, their laughter a distant memory she clung to. "We can't go back," she whispered, her voice raw. "Not to that place." Alex turned, his face drawn, the lines of his failed marriage etched deeper in the dim light. "You saw what happened to the others. Jamal, Mike, Sarah, Lena, they didn't come back. If we ignore this, it'll come for us." His voice cracked, betraying the fear he'd buried under anger. He pointed to the key. "That thing's not letting us go." The slithering outside grew closer, now scraping against the building's brick exterior, like claws testing for weakness. The chant sharpened, a chorus of voices, none human, blending into a rhythm that matched the mark's pulse. Emily's leg throbbed, and she stumbled, catching herself on the table. The key vibrated harder, its hum syncing with the sounds outside, as if calling to its source. "I'll do it," Emily said, her voice steady despite the pain. She grabbed the key, its warmth searing her palm. "I'm the one with the mark. It's me it wants." Her eyes flicked to the photo of her kids on the fridge, their smiles a lifeline. "You stay here, Alex. If I don't come back, find my kids. Tell them I tried." Alex grabbed her wrist, his grip desperate. "You're not going alone. That's what it wants, to pick us off one by one." His eyes searched hers, haunted by his own ghosts. "We end this together." Emily pulled free, the mark urging her toward the door, its pulse a drumbeat she couldn't ignore. It said one. If we both go, it might take us both. She moved to the door, the key heavy in her hand, the envelope's words burning in her mind. The slithering paused as if waiting, and the chant softened, expectant. The hallway was empty, but the air felt thick, charged with the warehouse's presence. Emily descended the stairs, each step echoing like the ones in the warehouse, the mark guiding her like a leash. Alex followed, ignoring her protests, his boots heavy behind her. The street outside was deserted, the rain falling in spirals that mirrored the mark, pooling into patterns that seemed to point back to the warehouse. They moved quickly, the city a blur of wet concrete and flickering lights. The warehouse loomed ahead, its brick facade unchanged, but its windows seemed darker, deeper, like mouths waiting to swallow them. The door was ajar, a faint hum spilling out. The chant now a low guttural hymn that vibrated in their chests. Emily stopped at the threshold, the mark searing, its spiral now reaching her thigh. "Stay here," she told Alex, her voice firm. "If it goes wrong, run." He shook his head, his jaw tight. "I'm not letting you face that thing alone." She didn't argue. There was no time. The key burned in her hand as she stepped inside, the warehouse's air thick with rust and decay, the puddle from before now a sprawling lake, its surface alive with swirling shapes. The bulb above flickered, casting their shadows in warped forms, and the stairs to the basement gaped like a wound. The chant grew louder coming from below, and the slithering resumed, circling the room unseen. Emily's mark pulsed in time, urging her toward the stairs. She clutched the key, its warmth now unbearable, and descended, each step heavier, the air colder, thicker, like wading through oil. Alex followed, his breath ragged, a rusty pipe in his hand, scavenged from the floor. The basement was a labyrinth of shadows, its walls slick with something that glistened like the mark's ink. The chant filled the space, a chorus of voices, Jamal's, Mike's, Sarah's, Lena's, twisted into something else, something that knew their sins. At the center, a stone altar stood, carved with spirals that matched Emily's mark. The key vibrated, pulling her toward it, and she placed it in a hollow at the altar's center, where it fit perfectly, sinking into the stone. The chant stopped. The hum died. The silence was worse. Then the mark flared, a blinding pain that dropped Emily to her knees. The altar pulsed and the shadows moved, coalescing into a form, formless yet solid, its edges studded with teeth, eyes, hands, all shifting, watching. It spoke, its voice a blend of the lost. "You carried me, now you are mine." Alex swung the pipe, but it passed through the shape, clanging against the altar. The mark spread up Emily's body, its spirals now visible on her arms, her chest, her reflection in the puddle showing a face not entirely her own. She screamed, but the sound was swallowed, the warehouse drinking it in. Alex grabbed her, pulling her toward the stairs, but the shadows surged, wrapping around her legs, their touch cold and alive. "Run," she gasped, shoving him back. "Tell my kids I love them." The shadows tightened, and the mark burned brighter, claiming her. Alex stumbled up the stairs, the warehouse groaning as if satisfied. He burst through the door, collapsing in the rain, the city's lights blurring through his tears. The warehouse stood silent, its door sealed, the key gone. The mark's pulse now a faint echo in his mind. Behind him the rain whispered a final word. "Mine." The rain had stopped, leaving Seattle's streets slick and gleaming under the sodium glow of streetlights. Alex stood alone outside the warehouse, his clothes soaked, the rusty pipe still clutched in his trembling hand. The air was heavy, thick with the scent of wet concrete and something sharper, like the memory of rust and decay from inside. The warehouse loomed behind him, its door now sealed shut, the rusted metal seamless, as if it had never opened. The key was gone, swallowed by the altar, and with it Emily. Her final scream still echoed in his mind, tangled with the whispered mine that followed him into the night. His chest ached, not just from running, but from the weight of her last words. "Tell my kids I love them." He stumbled down the street, the city unnervingly quiet, its usual pulse muted as if it, too, had been drained by the warehouse. His boots splashed through puddles that no longer spiraled, but the echo of the chant lingered, faint and insidious, like a song he couldn't unhear. He kept moving, driven by Emily's plea, his own guilt a shadow trailing him. Guilt for his failed marriage, for surviving when the others didn't, for letting her go back alone. Emily's apartment building came into view, its brick facade a cruel mirror of the warehouses. The hallway smelled the same, mildew, burnt toast, but now it felt hollow, like a stage abandoned after the play. He knocked on her door, his knuckles raw, his heart pounding with the faint hope that she'd somehow made it back. The babysitter answered, a tired woman with wary eyes, her expression shifting to confusion as she saw Alex's drenched, wild appearance. "Where's Emily?" she asked, glancing past him as if expecting her to follow. Alex's throat tightened, the words stuck. "She didn't make it." He forced the lie out, unable to explain the truth. She asked me to check on her kids, to tell them she loves them. The babysitter's face hardened, but she nodded, stepping aside to let him glimpse the living room. Two small forms slept on the couch, curled under a blanket, their faces peaceful in a way that twisted the knife in Alex's chest. He couldn't speak, couldn't bear to wake them with the news. He mumbled a thank you and fled, the babysitter's questions trailing him down the stairs. Outside, the city felt alien, its lights too bright, its sounds too sharp. He wandered, aimless, the pipe still in his hand, its weight a reminder of his failure to fight whatever had taken Emily. The chant was gone now, but its absence was worse, leaving a void that pressed against his skull. He found himself at a bus stop, the shelter's glass streaked with rain, reflecting his haggard face. His reflection looked wrong, his eyes too dark, his skin too pale, as if the warehouse had left something behind in him. He boarded a bus, the driver barely glancing at him, and sat in the back staring at his hands. A faint mark lingered on his palm where he'd touched the key, a faint spiral, barely visible, but warm to the touch. He rubbed it, willing it to fade, but it pulsed faintly, a reminder of the warehouse's reach. His mind replayed the game, the tasks, the confessions, the sacrifices. Jamal, Mike, Sarah, Lena, Emily, all gone, their voices woven into that final chant. He'd survived, but at what cost? The bus stopped near his apartment, a rundown building on the edge of the city. He climbed the stairs, each step heavier, the mark on his palm tingling. Inside, his place was as he'd left it. Empty beer cans, unwashed dishes, the ghost of his old life. But something was off. On the kitchen table sat an envelope, its seal unbroken, glistening with black wax that smelled of iron and decay. His breath caught. He hadn't brought it here. The warehouse was miles away, yet the envelope felt alive, its edges curling slightly, as if breathing. He tore it open, his hands shaking, revealing a single line in jagged script. The game never ends. Carry the mark or return. The mark on his palm flared, its spiral darkening, spreading up his wrist. The room seemed to shift, the walls creaking faintly, like the warehouse's groan. He stumbled to the sink, scrubbing his hand until the skin was raw. But the mark only grew sharper, its lines twisting into shapes that whispered of the altar, of the shadows with teeth. A sound broke the silence, a low, rhythmic chant, faint but growing, seeping through the walls. He spun, the pipe raised, but the room was empty. The chant wasn't outside. It was in his head, in the mark, in the air he breathed. The warehouse hadn't let him go. It had followed him, or maybe he'd carried it out, a seed planted in his skin. He grabbed his phone, instinct driving him to Reddit, to urban challenges. But the thread was gone, the subreddit locked, his account banned. His messages to the game's organizer bounced back, undeliverable. The city outside his window flickered, the lights pulsing in time with the mark, and the chant grew louder, naming him Alex. He sank to the floor, the pipe clattering beside him, his eyes fixed on the mark. It was alive, moving, writing itself across his arm, a map to the warehouse, a summons he couldn't ignore. He thought of Emily's kids, of her sacrifice, of the others lost to the game. He could run, keep running, but the mark would follow, and the warehouse would wait. From the street below, a faint slithering rose scraping against the building, patient, inevitable. The chant shifted, a single word now, clear and cold. Return. Alex stood, the mark burning, his choice already made. The warehouse wasn't done with him, and deep down he knew. He wasn't done with it either. Thank you for listening. Hope you didn't get too scared. If you want to listen more stories, check out my channel. Please leave a like and subscribe. It means the whole world to me.